Hi everyone, my name is Karen, this is my channel RatherBeReading, and today I'm bringing to you my February TBR. February is going to be kind of an interesting reading month. I have felt towards the end of January like I'd fallen into not a slump, but I just haven't been able to get as much read as I normally would, and I do have a lot going on like with work. I've mentioned in my vlogs, if you've seen those, that I'm on a project at work at the moment, and so I'm and that's in another office, so I'm in and out of that office, and I'm going to my office. I'm spending some days someplace, some days someplace else, and then on the days that I'm on the project, I don't get as much read, and I just feel like I've been generally quite busy lately, so hopefully February turns out to be a good reading month. But let's jump straight in, and as always we will start off with all of the library books that I have that are due back in the month of February. I only have 3 books that are due back in the month of February, which is pretty good. So I say every month I'm always like yay, and then I hope that I can get ahead on my library due dates, and then it just never seems to happen. And so the first library book that I have that is due back is Exile for Dreamers by Kathleen Baldwin. This is the second book in the Strange Girls, I think it's Strange House series. The first book being A School for Unusual Girls. And that book I was pretty meh on. I thought it was pretty like mediocre. But the books are told from, so the timeline continues on, so you wouldn't be able to read this without having read the first book, but it does follow a different character, and I was interested in that main character, and particularly the romance that I was pretty sure was going to happen in this one, so I decided to continue on and kind of see how I felt about this one before I decided like whether I wanted to continue with the series. So hopefully I enjoy this one a little bit more than I did the first book in the series. Next from the library I have Hungry Hill by Daphne du Maurier. I have never heard anyone talk about this Daphne du Maurier book. I've kind of gotten past the point now where I've read most of the Daphne du Maurier books that you kind of hear like people talk about more often, and so I've never heard anything about this. And from a quick skim of the back, it seems to be about 2 families feuding over the wealth that is obtained, or the treasure or something that's involved with this house, because one family is currently living in the house and one family used to own the house or is still technically the owner of the house, and they're feuding over this treasure or wealth or something that's got to do with the house. I presume the house is on Hungry Hill, or the house is called Hungry Hill. I don't really know, and that's all I know about it, but I have enjoyed most of Daphne du Maurier's works that I've read, so I'm hoping that this will be another good one that I can add to my favorites list. And the final book that I have due back to the library in February is Fracture by Megan Miranda. So this is a young adult story. I'm not sure technically what genre it falls under, but it's about a girl, it seems, who falls through the ice and is technically dead for like 11 minutes. And then I think she can speak to the dead, or she can sense death, and she comes across this a strange boy who can also sense death, so I presume it's going to have a romance in it as well. That's all I really know about it. I picked this up just because I've read 2 of Megan Miranda's adult thrillers, and I've enjoyed both of those, and particularly her writing, so I wanted to pick up some of her YA stuff and kind of see how I like it. And this is really short. It doesn't look that short, but it's only 260 pages, so this is very, very short, so maybe I will end up being able to get ahead on my library due dates in February. And now moving on to the books from my physical TBR that I'm hoping to get through in the month of February. So my main priority is to complete the second 2 books in the Penryn and the End of Days trilogy. So that is World After, which is book 2, and End of Days, which is book 3. I did read the first book, Angel Fall, in the month of January. So this is a YA post-apocalyptic trilogy that follows a world where angels have come down and they've basically wreaked havoc on Earth, and it's in a complete post-apocalyptic state, and people are like, you know, fending for themselves, and there's no electricity, and, you know, there's looters, and everyone, and like a lot of people have died, and everyone's just kind of trying to survive. And in the first book we follow Penryn, whose younger disabled sister is taken by one of the angels, and she has to kind of team up with this angel who was injured, and she offers to help him, and in return, if he can help her get her sister back. That's what happens in the first book, and I really loved the first book. It was my favorite book that I read in January, so I'm hoping I really enjoy the completion of this trilogy. My other priority for my physical TBR this month is the To All the Boys I've Loved Before trilogy by Jenny Han. So I have To All the Boys I've Loved Before, Book 2, P.S. I Still Love You, and Book 3, Always and Forever, Lara Jean. So all I know about this is that it follows a main character named Lara Jean who, when she's getting over a crush, she writes a love letter to them, and she doesn't post them or anything. She keeps them somewhere in her house, and then one day all of the love letters get sent out, and havoc ensues. I feel like I've been a little bit spoiled for this trilogy because people openly talk about like a couple from this series that I'm not going to say because if you haven't heard it, I don't want to spoil you, which I feel like is probably a spoiler for book 1. So that kind of sucks, but I'm sure I'll still really enjoy it. And I love the way these spines look all together with the pink and the kind of tealy green and the lavender purple. I love the way this is going to look on my shelf once I've read this, but this is my other priority that I'm hoping to get through the entire trilogy, hopefully in the month of February. Now moving on to the ebooks on my Kindle that I'm hoping to get through in the month of February. So I have 2 books that are kind of like books that I've had on my Kindle for a really long time. As you know, I've been trying to get through all of the older books from my Kindle. So the first of those is Choosing Charleston by T. Lynn Ocean. I did start this at the end of January. This is a women's fiction chick lit type of story about a woman who discovers that her husband is cheating on her. And so she ends up moving back to Charleston, where she grew up, and moving back in with her parents. And then she's kind of embroiled in this conflict where her family's business is about to kind of go out of business because there is this big like development happening across the street that's going to put her father's store out of business, and she comes into a conflict with a very attractive construction worker who lives across the street. So I've got that one, and then the other one from my Kindle is Scandal by Carolyn Jewell, and I don't know too much about this except that it is a historical romance set in the Regency period, but I'm sure it's just going to be a pretty typical historical romance, which I have been reading a bit more of lately, and if it's anything close to being like Tessa Dare's books, then I'm sure it'll be really enjoyable. So 2 kind of romancy books that I'm sure will help break up the other books that I'm reading in the month of February. The other book that I have on my Kindle that I'm hoping to read is from NetGalley, and that's There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. This was like one of my most anticipated books of 2017, and I was so excited when I got approved for an ARC of this on NetGalley, because when I requested it, I never expected to be approved. And then because I'm a terrible human and it takes me forever to get through my NetGalley books, I just still haven't got to it. So this is a book that I'm very excited to get through in February because I've been so excited for this, as I've already mentioned. So this is a young adult slasher type novel in the style of Scream. It's actually got pretty mixed reviews, and a lot of people have been disappointed with it, but I'm hoping if I go into this with kind of lowered expectations, then hopefully I'll end up really enjoying it, because slasher type things is definitely up my alley, and I love the Scream movies so much, so I'm hoping that I do really love this. Next, I thought I'd just quickly touch on the audiobooks that I'm hoping that I'm going to get. I've got a bunch that are on hold, but there's 3 that I'm pretty sure that are gonna come in for me during the month of February. The first is Are You There Alone by Susan O'Malley. This is a non-fiction true crime that follows the story of Andrea Yates, who is a mother who was suffering from like psychosis and postpartum depression, who ended up drowning all 5 of her children in the bathtub. And it's about, I presume, that crime, and kind of, it's not like a mystery in terms of like, did she commit the crime? It's well known, like she's admitted to committing the crime. It's kind of about why this crime happened. So I'm sure that's going to be a really difficult read or listen. And then I also have Stranger Beside Me by Anne Rule. I read another book by Anne Rule last month, and through that book I discovered that Anne Rule got her start in true crime fiction because she was actually friends with Ted Bundy. And when I heard that, and that's how she came to write the book, Stranger Beside Me, which is about Ted Bundy, I was immediately felt like I had to read that, because I've never read a true crime novel that is told from someone who was actually like friends with and like knew the serial killer. So I'm sure that's going to be really, really interesting. And the other book that I have that I'm on like hold on audio that I'm hoping to get through to in the month of February is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. So this I don't know too much about. I just know that a lot of people read this a while ago, and I'm pretty sure I got pretty positive reviews, and all I know is that it's a YA historical fiction that is set during World War II, and I think it's got to do with like a maritime disaster that was even worse than the Titanic, but I'm not sure if it's about characters who were on that boat and sort of survived, or if they die. I don't really know any of the details or how that ties into the into World War II, but I just know it's set during World War II, and it's got something to do with a boat and some kind of maritime disaster. So like I said, I'm pretty sure I got positive reviews, so hopefully I end up really enjoying that one as well. So those are all of the books that I'm hoping to get to in the month of February. I would love to chat with you guys in the comments down below if you've read any of these books, if you have any thoughts about them, or any books that you're really, really hoping to get through in the month of February. I would love to chat down below. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more from my channel. That's all I've got for this video today. Bye, guys.